tangled up here. There we go. All right, good evening, members of council, administration, and also those who are streaming from the comforts of your home. Welcome to our regular council meeting this evening. Roll call, all members of council are present, and I would like to make notice that we had a closed meeting, an electronic in-camera personal committee meeting was held earlier this evening at 4:30, which was closed to the public under section 239 2D of the Municipal Act 2001, which permits a meeting or part of a meeting to be closed to the public when subject matter being considered is closed to the public and being considered as labor relations or employee negotiations. At the meeting, council gave direction on negotiations with our QP locals 702.1, 702.2, and 702.3, full-time outside, inside workers, and our part-time inside workers for new collective agreement. Members of council, any disclosure of pecuniary interest on the agenda is presented to you this evening. Okay, none indicated, so we'll have that reflected in the minutes. And speaking of the minutes, we got the regular council meeting of April 13th, as well as special council meeting of April the 8th, 2021, Woodside Trail. And so if I could have and also public council meeting on March 30th, 2021, that was the Bride A development. So if I could have a motion on those minutes. Moved by Councilor Tonio and Councilor Houston. Any errors or omission on those minutes as presented to you? Yes, Councilor Altenhoff.
Thank you, Worship. And through you, on the regular council meeting of April 13th, item 4C is missing the individual who seconded the motion, at least on the PDF file that I downloaded. So if that could maybe just be included, that individual. I'm sorry, I can't recall off the top of my head who that was, but I didn't see it there.
Okay, well, we'll make sure that that is included to the minutes of the record. All right, so I'll say as corrected. All in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Thank you. We have a supplementary item agenda that needs to be taken care of this evening. It's action required, and it's an item from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. That was dated April 27th, and regarding how to strengthen accountability and municipal council members be approved. So we're going to have a motion on the supplementary. Councilor Houston, Councilor Dowie, all in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Thank you. We have no delegations to deal with this evening, but we do have communications items. We have 17 items of communications. So if I could have a motion to receive communications 1 through 17. Deputy Mayor Bichetti, Councilor Jobin. All in favor? Opposed, if any, of that is carried. Councilor Altenhoff.
I'm sorry for interrupting, Your Worship. Just on item J6, it seemed to be just a PDF file showing the voting poll. I don't know if I missed something or.
Which one?
Item J6, Township of Georgian Bay.
Planning Act timelines.
And maybe this is the PDF file that I downloaded again from the website, but it just came up as a the Township of Georgian Bay Council, yay or nay, and has the names.
Your Worship, I took that to be the previous number 5, that was the resolution being referenced in number 6, but perhaps the clerk can clarify.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
They did have separate items. I'm sorry for interrupting, but just if there could be clarification on that, maybe to administration, be appreciated. Just so that the documents cleaned up. That's all I think I'm seeking.
Okay. All right, on those items, 1 through 17, is there anything that members of council want to bring forward? Okay. Communication action required, and that's from the supplementary. I did receive a notice from the minister. Actually, it was today. The timing was right, so it was picked up by administration, and it's consulting on how to strengthen accountability for municipal council members. As you know, that's been on the docket for a little bit, and what they're asking is that in the Western region, that a member of council be appointed to attend the June 8th, 2021 session with the associate member, children and women's issue, to provide input to the Ontario government's consultation on how to strengthen accountability for municipal council members, and that a member be appointed and be registered prior to May the 6th. I'm doing the county. I've been appointed at the county to do it as the head of council, but obviously I'm looking for someone that, and I think would be in keeping for someone that's been on council for a while, that understands, I think, and the issue here. And a lot of it is it's about conduct and
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Tonio.
I'd like to, is this the time to nominate somebody? Is that what we do, or bring forward somebody's name from council?
Yeah, you can do that. And
I'd like to bring forward Councillor Jobin's name for this position. I think she might be interested in something like this. So.
Certainly, it would be my pleasure. Thank you.
okay. Yes, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I support that. Councillor Job would be a great representative of our council there.
Yeah, I think you've got three terms under your belt.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's basically, the whole issue of, they've been asking, in terms of the conduct of council, anything from strengthening the IC, the integrity commissioner, to recall. And I know AMO has been working hand in glove with the ministry on a lot of it too. And I'll try to get some of that information as well to you, Councillor Jobin, as well, to see, our association. They've had numerous meetings with the ministry, and but anyway, I think there'll be certainly a lot of hard discussions being made, and in regards to how do we deal with the code of conduct, and in particular for, I guess, the difficult ones in the 444 municipalities. But I do believe there's a lot of suggestions that have been brought forward, and so I'll make sure, Councillor Jobin, you get a lot of that information from that AMO has already brought forward.
No, that would be great. And I do appreciate that. And I look forward to representing us well, for sure. Thank you.
All right, so it's been Councillor Jobin's been nominated and seconded. Councillor Dowie. Oh, you're waiting for the call to question? All in favor? Opposed, if any? No, it's carried. I thought you were asking a question. Okay. So we're all set for that, and we'll make sure that you get registered. Move on to committee minutes. We have the minutes of the quarter revision, Curtis Drain. And if I could have a motion that the Tuesday, April 13, 21 minutes of the quarter revision, the Curtis Drain, as was duplicated and delivered to the members, be adopted as presented. Councillor Houston move, Councillor Dowie support. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Next, we have the minutes of the quarter of revision. That's the April 13th, 2021 Dawson drain. And that the minutes of the quarter revision, Dawson drain, as we're duplicating delivered to the members, be adopted as presented. Councillor Houston, Councillor Dowie. Any questions or comments? Heard none, all in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Next, we have the Police Services Board minutes of the meeting of April the 8th. The minutes as duplicated and delivered to the members be accepted. Councillor Antonio and Deputy Mayor Becchetti. Any questions or comments? Go ahead, Councillor Antonio.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just on the Police Services Board meeting, I just want to comment on the video registry that they're looking at getting. You know, I think it's a great idea, great community style policing. You know, if we have a crime, we can research our neighbors' videos and that are willing to provide that. So great idea, great investigative tool. So good job on that one to our Tecumseh Police Services Board.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to take all the credit, you know, but our Staff Sergeant Jamie Smith first brought that to our attention, and I think it's you're absolutely right. It's a great tool, and being a former police officer, any tool you've got in the toolbox that aid in investigation is something good. Okay. No further questions. All in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Thank you. We'll move on to reports. Members of council, our first report of 2 from our Chief Administrative Officer. Give us an update on the services and staff hours here at Town Hall and beyond.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just be brief. I think the report is pretty self-explanatory. Just for information, just to provide council with a snapshot of where we're at with service delivery under the current stay-at-home order that is now extended to late May. The services will continue to be delivered remotely as we try to protect staff and the public from the virus and its variants. I think it's been going fairly well. I think for the most part, people are adjusting to the remote service delivery. We are finishing up the last, components of the town hall renovation as well. So that sort of is a nice sort of coincidence that once we are able to get past this stay-at-home order, the building should be ready to open as well, with the frontline staff fully protected behind a solid barrier. We did take a little bit of an exercise of recording work hours for the better part of 2020, just to get a sense of what kind of resources were devoted to the COVID-19 pandemic. That's documented in the report, and safe to say that the senior management team were the ones that were mostly affected and at sometimes very heavily impacted in terms of their time committed to addressing the pandemic. But it did stem all the way through to frontline workers and hourly staff, and that is provided to you for information, really, just so that you were aware of the full impact of the pandemic. It continues, and with each wave, we have to regroup and respond, and so it's interesting to see how it did kind of ebb and flow with the waves of the pandemic, and hopefully, if we can get this progress made in the vaccination rollout, we can stop seeing those waves happening with the pandemic and put it behind us. But it is that's all I had to say about it, Mr. Mayor. So if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to address those.
Yeah, I just want to commend yourself and certainly the senior management team on a really quick pivot. As when the lockdown came, obviously there was some confusion at the very beginning, but to be able to get staff and and activate them to get out in the parks and close things down and repivot again to reopen and so forth. I certainly want to thank staff because obviously our numbers are not, we're a small community and certainly our staff numbers are not the numbers, and we've got 46 parks and some big and small in between. So I certainly want to commend you for that. The other thing, just on the vaccination piece, the good news is in the next couple of weeks, we're going to get double the doses of vaccinations. And we're at about 33 to 34% now, at least one shot. And by the tail end of May, we should be hitting the 50+ percentage of our region. And by the end of June, it'll be in closer to 65 to 70%, which is where they say herd immunity. So there's certainly the good news is certainly in the next couple of weeks and encouraging our folks to get vaccinated as soon as you're called upon. So I think that's a critical point. So it's finally starting to see the certainly the delivery and we'll see where we stand in the next couple of weeks. Councillor Houston.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I guess to the CAO, great report, and I really don't have any questions. But for me, reading the report, it provided a great picture of really the impact of what the pandemic has had, and I think it illustrates to our residents, what that impact is. In my day-to-day job, I'm having a lot of conversations with clients about what the impact of business is and how I can help them overcome some of those challenges. But here reading that 20% of senior management's time is spent on the pandemic, that's 20% that's not being spent on what day-to-day business used to be, and seeing the 2,100 hours really I guess it illustrated, what the impact is. So I think it does a great job at, showing the residents, what the overall impact of the pandemic is. And we know it's impacting everybody, but I thought it was a good report and great information for our residents. So thank you.
All right. Any further questions or comments to our CAO? If not, then I could have a motion to receive the report. Councillor Drobin and Councillor Dowie. All in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Okay. Second report is still from our CAO, Ms. Evans, and it's on the municipal insurance trends.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this report is really in response to an earlier conversation held earlier this year at council when you had suggested that I bring this forward to the regional CAO's meeting as it was raised at Roma. There seemed to be some concern expressed around the Attorney General's comments on whether joint and several liability was related to municipal insurance rate increases. So following along with that, we did discuss it at the regional CAO meeting in February, and then the county CAO and director of general manager of financial services at the county have since kind of carried the ball forward in terms of looking at a regional kind of comprehensive review to see if there are other ways that we can address insurance costs in a hard market, which is what we find ourselves in for the last couple of years with no real end in sight. So we have pretty much all 7 of us in the county have indicated that we are happy to participate in the comprehensive review and see if it yields some other alternatives to insurance that could help contain mounting costs in the future. Of course, all we've committed to is participating in the study. The county has graciously agreed to pay for it, And any results that come out of that study will be reported back to council, probably through a budget process.
Yeah, and thank you for that as well. I think it's and I'm sure that the deputy mayor can attest to it as well. As we had a great discussion at the county council last week with members of council, and it was supported unanimously by all of the municipalities. And if there are opportunities here in terms of going out, and seeing if we can unify, our tenders, and so I think we're hoping that great results are going to come from the study, and I'm glad to see the county stepping up and actually paying for the study on behalf of the lower tier municipalities. Although we do pay the bill to the county, but it was nice. So I'm glad to see that we're moving forward on this, because we're seeing, our municipality fairly lucky over the years. We've had a few bumps, but then there are other municipalities, in the region that have seen high double-digit increases. You've talked to your peers, and other places in the province of Ontario as well. AMO's looking at maybe reinstituting a survey they did a few years ago, which is really dated now, where the insurance costs are well north of 300 million a year for our 444 municipalities. And so I think the timing is appropriate. And if we can find ways and means to bring those costs down for the region, that would be wonderful. And so with that, I certainly want to thank you, for kind of leading it from the lower tier municipality base. And so I'm looking forward to that report. Councilor Dowie.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. And I was actually quite interested in reading this report. I apologize for, I think, the lighting that I'm going through right now. It's the dusk is changing things for me. But actually, I guess I remain concerned that the joint and several liability issue seems to be just on a pause. This has been something that municipalities have been asking for quite some time, a reform in this, and because it certainly is affecting residents' enjoyment of municipal facilities, that we have to go well above and beyond in terms of risk management. And it should, just to have the municipality always be on the hook for anything that happens, certainly a detriment to the enjoyment of our facilities. I guess another a question that just popped in my head in rereading the report, and I apologize to the administration, I haven't flagged it earlier. We received the range of costs from 2017 to today. Would we happen to have a sense of what percentage jump has occurred in our insurance rates going back, say, 10 years? Would we have a figure like that?
Mr. Mayor, if I can, I'll defer that question to Mr. Kitsos, please.
Yeah.
Thank you through the mayor and to Councillor Dowie. Yes, we do have that data. I don't have it at my fingertips. I could bring it forward. Probably, I could send that out, distribute that if you like tomorrow, or I guess we could bring it up at the next council meeting, if that's
Perfect.
an option.
Thank you.
Okay. So if there's no further questions to the CAO, then a motion here is proper to receive the report. Councillor Altenhoff, Councillor Tonio, all in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Our next report is from our Information and Communication Services. It's the Tecumseh Rural Broadband Advisory Committee. Mr. Firth, if you want to bring your report forward.
Sure. Thank you, Your Worship, and good evening, members of council. If you recall, this was a topic that came up last fall, actually just before Christmas, where administration was asked to come back with a report to look into internet access in our rural areas. So as was indicated at the time and since then, we've talked a bit about tonight during a pandemic, it became evident early on that the need for reliable and stable internet was very, was a necessity for many of our residents, whether they're working from home, being students, businesses, those needing access to healthcare services, or even tonight is a good example, participating in an open council meeting. So during this time, we've all realized that internet access is not just a luxury, but it's really an essential service. So when we looked a little closer at this in the last couple of months, based on our residents' phone calls and emails with voicing their concerns, we looked at ways that we can help. And in the past 10 years, as you know, in our strategic plan, we identify one of the pillars is helping advocate for areas of the town that require this service. Even before the pandemic is something we were doing. We have had some small wins over the years. If you remember, the Maidstone Hamlet now has a Cogeco connection to the residents in the hamlet, and some other smaller areas that we've had some small wins and successes, but there's still a long way to go. There are agencies such as Swift Networks that was initiated by the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus, and somebody on our meeting here tonight is a recently elected chair of this consortium. So our own Mayor McNamara is now the chair for Swift Networks. We also have more locally is Connecting Windsor Essex. So these entities, they examine long-term planning and funding for expansion of internet service. But we feel that really a solution has to come from the ground up. And the creation of the committee that we're proposing to council tonight would be used to closer examine roadblocks that are faced by our residents and businesses. And on the other side, you bring to the table the ISPs, the internet service providers, and the utility companies and the telcos that have a role to play here. And ultimately, they're the ones that are providing the service. So fact finding, getting all the players around the same table and reporting back to council on findings and any opportunities that may come about. So I'm just going to quickly do a picture's always worth 1,000 words. So if you bear with me here for a second, I'll show you if you can see here. On the Swift network page, this is a map of Western Ontario. And if we zoom into our neck of the woods, the blue is areas where they have broadband. So broadband's defined by 50 meg download and 10 meg upload. So any of the blue areas, they have very good connectivity. And any of the red areas are, again, good connectivity that were Swift projects. So if we look in our neck of the woods in Tecumseh, so you see this big area here of green, of rural Tecumseh, and a big swath of lakeshore down into Essex, you can see there's not many opportunities for broadband connectivity in those areas. So our goal is to, turn more of these blue and or red and get better bandwidth to our residents and businesses in those areas. It's not just a Tecumseh issue, it's a regional and provincial issue, and there are upper levels of government and again, Swift, that leverage funding opportunities with the private sector to help turn these areas from nothing or very little internet connectivity to have fiber at their door, et cetera. We have a survey on their website, and this is something we'll talk about if our committee is struck and if council is agreeable to the report recommendations in the report. There are surveys and going out and doing fact finding and education for those areas that are underserved. And by doing that, you can really pinpoint on a map where the underserved areas are. So if somebody logs in and says, I live at this address in Tecumseh or in Lakeshore, and this is the bandwidth I'm getting. This will do a speed test and it tells you, so obviously red is poor bandwidth, and it's nowhere near 50 in our rural areas. And these are only a few people that have actually gone on this site and identified. So the entities that fund these projects, they look at this data, and it's really data driven to see what areas will come online next. And then when they build the core networks, they always hear about the last mile, and that's getting this connectivity to the door. So really education on our part is something we're going to look at promoting to our residents to go in and use these tools to get identified as an area that is underserved. And by doing so, that data will come back and hopefully in the long run benefit areas of our community that are really in need of this, what we're calling an essential service. So with that, the committee that we're proposing would be composed of the mayor, 2 members of council, and 4 members at large in the rural areas, that a couple residents, a couple business owners that can really, and we have had some come forward with very strong ideas and opinions and expertise in providing a hand on this committee. So if council is agreeable to proceeding with this, it's something administration would like to assist with.
Okay. I just want to add out the importance. I think you hit it right on the nail on the head, Mr. Firth, in terms of essential services. SWIFT 1.0 is completed. There's about 60 contracts, and I think total value about 260 million that's been done in southwestern Ontario. Sounds a lot, not really. It really it's probably less than about 22-23% of the targeted areas in that. There's still a long way to go. Good news is the province has added 2.8 billion to the budget, and the federal government another billion on. And one of the things that that people have to understand on SWIFT, I know we're making our the next push for what they call SWIFT 2.0 for additional dollars, but there are other available buckets of money for broadband expansion, and as you know, through the CRTC piece, the Rapid Fund, and there's other groups. The one thing about SWIFT, it's not a question of saying, well, we're the only game in town, we should only support them and so forth. The reality is that whichever way we can get broadband into our communities, and in particular in those vulnerable areas in the community, we're there, we support that. And even to the ability to that SWIFT, through the expertise of Barry Fields and others, would even help coordinate if it's some, if it's the UBF fund or certainly the Rapid Fund and so forth. So that's good news. And I think this here is a great opportunity for us to really push the envelope. As we keep marching on, the subsidy requirements, if it was left to the ISPs alone, we'll never get it. And what's happening now is that even the connection per resident is increasing anywhere between $4,000 to $7,000. So you can see it just doesn't make business sense to the ISPs to go into those areas without any type of subsidy. And so when you talked about Maidstone and you talked about Oldcastle and those areas, those are the low-hanging fruit that was out there. And so that's been taken care of. And now we've got to branch it into areas where more into the farmhouses and the farm homes and so forth. And in particular, when you look at the Jobin Farms, a good example where broadband is extremely important with the technology in operating a milk operation. You require a lot a lot of broadband, and so it's important that those farmers and in those areas do have access to it and so forth. So I think it's a great idea. I compliment council for asking for this and for the work that you've done, Mr. Firth, in presenting this. Great opportunity now to roll up our sleeves and really start working towards getting some of those dollars that the feds and certainly the province have brought forward. And whatever help that the Western Wardens through SWIFT are pushing very hard to make sure that we get our fair share. We've got 3.5 million people living in Southwestern Ontario, and we're part of that. And so we want to make sure that we get our fair share. Councillor Jobin and Councillor Altenhoff, and then Councillor Dowie.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Sean. Thank you for the report. I'd like to move the recommendation and even offer, with everyone's permission, that I sit on the committee. Just a quick comment as well. Some of the residents along the County Road 8 corridor, everybody's been working remotely from home as students. Some of them get in their cars. They're paying for 25 megabytes, but they get a service of 3 at times when they're logging in, and they get bumped off even during exam times. I'm talking university students, people operating professionally from home, and they'll load up and they'll head up to the Tim Hortons on Walker Road just to get a better service. So it's unfortunate, and I'm looking forward to being a part of this committee and taking on some initiatives and moving things forward.
Okay, okay, no order. I know I got Councillor Dowie, and who else was that? Councillor Altenhoff?
Thank you, Your Worship. Actually, I was going to put forward Councillor Jobin's name. Yeah, I know we're loading our plate a lot tonight, but I think she'd be ideal for this, given how much experience she has with infrastructure of this nature, as well as Councillor Houston, who also represents a big chunk of our rural community. So I think they'd be the two ideal candidates to serve on this committee.
All right, so the report's moved by Councillor Jobin, supported by Councillor Dowie, and I'll continue with questions, and then we've got Councillors Jobin and Houston to represent. Councillor Altenhoff.
Thank you, Worship, and through you, I agree exactly. Councillor Jobin listed a number of examples, and it is, very frustrating. I see it where certainly students at the university setting, they don't have these services, and they're in the middle of an exam, and what do? The last thing they should be thinking about is I got to hop in a car and run down the road a certain amount or a certain distance. So I think fundamentally this is quite important. Certainly needs to come to be, and I fully support this. But I would just ask the one thing, when I read through the terms of reference, the word rural is used, but yet implicitly within both the objectives and the scope, reference is made to all of the town. So I would suggest, or maybe just look to Mr. Firth. Do you think it would probably be a better idea? This has to be something. While I recognize we want an emphasis on the rural committee, or on the rural part of the town, and it is articulated in the terms of reference that the kind of the council representation will be from both rural and urban settings. The membership from the members at large is not indicated rural or urban. So I think a good mix would not hurt. And I would certainly, I think the more appropriate title to this would be Town of Tecumseh Broadband Advisory Committee, because we'll have issues throughout the whole area. I leave it to you as a consideration. I'm not trying to split hairs, but I think this is something that we want to speak together as a whole community, not just the rural setting. Appreciate any feedback Mr. Firth may wish to have. Thank you.
Mr. Firth.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Altenhoff. Yes, that was a consideration. You're absolutely right. Even when we say the urban areas of Tecumseh, say wards 1, 2, and 3, believe it or not, there are dead spots or dead zones, or maybe a small section of a street here or there. Even though we have other areas that now have 3 options for possibly fiber at the door. So you don't really think of the urban area as being a trouble spot, but those considerations that can be made. And we'll definitely, again, advocacy is from one end of the town to the other. It's not necessarily rural. And we can re-examine the representation. We'll see what comes in during the application period for this. But if you look at the issue at hand, it is predominantly the rural areas would be deemed the underserved. And again, not saying that there's parts of the urban area that are dead zones. So it's something we can consider during the application process for sure.
Yeah, the ISPs are working. I think eventually anything that's south of 42, and I'm not talking about the new areas, but certainly the concentrated areas and then the north will be served. I mean, they're as you know, we're getting complaints from residents about how many times you're going to dig up my front lawn. And so I know I'm very fortunate. I've got Bell, MNSI, Cogeco, and what's the other one? There's 4 of them. So, and I think what the beauty of it too is the competition. And I think the more we can get out there of the ISPs, and as that's where to entice them to get into the rural area in particular is the high subsidy, and to finally get them there. But I'm sure we'll get I think a good coverage, the community. Plus you want some expertise on there as well, right? And Windsor Connect, and hopefully Mr. Firth is still going to have his hand in it, certainly, as well as certainly our IT guy and our go-to liaison with certainly our council. So with that, any further questions or comments? Okay, so in the motion itself, just to include Councillor Jobin and Councillor Houston. On the motion, all in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Thank you. I'll move on to Public Works, Environmental Services. Mr. Bartnick, if you want to bring your report forward.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. So the first report here reports PWES 2021-18. So this report is an amendment to the drainage assessment schedules for the Dawson Drain and the LaChance Drain. This report is recommending that bylaws number 29 and 30 that are attached to the council agenda tonight be given the first, second, and third and final reading. These bylaws are levying bylaws that will allow the town to assess out the actual cost for the works that were completed on the Dawson Drain and LaChance Drain in 2020. These costs will be assessed out to the affected landowners in the proportions contained within the original engineer's drainage report. And this report also identifies the actual costs of the drainage works as well as the town's costs for both drains. For the Dawson Drain, the actual costs were roughly about $182,000, and the town's portion of that was close to $30,000. And the LaChance Drain came in at about $166,000, with the town's portion being around $11,000. Be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Any questions to Mr. Bartnick? No question. Could I have a motion to receive the report? Councillor Tonio and Councillor Altenhoff. All in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. All right, Mr. Bartnick, you're still on 2021-21 LAS Sewer and Waterline Warranty Program Agreement Renewal Term.
Yes, thank you through your worship. So this report is recommending that the town provide notice to Service Line Warranties of Canada to extend the agreement for 1 additional year, which would start on September 27th, 2021. Service Line Warranties of Canada provides residents the opportunity for a low-cost warranty program that will help repair, replace, and restore critical infrastructure that is on the private side. The original agreement was signed and endorsed by council back in September of 2016, and it was originally for a 3-year term. The Service Line Warranties of Canada did not start their marketing campaign, however, until February of 2019. And as a result, council has previously extended their contract on a year-to-year basis back in 2019 and again in 2020. And we're here again recommending that it be extended again for a further year. The report does highlight some of the updates on the program. So to date, I guess as of March 24th, there was 305 residents that were enrolled, totaling 473 policies. And that split was the in-house plumbing policy. We had about 20 policies there. The sewer septic line had 191 policies. And the water service line had 262 policies that were taken out. With respect to financial implications, so the town's agreement with Service Line Warranties of Canada in 2016 permitted them to use the town's name and logo on letterhead, advertisements, billing, and marketing materials. And in return, the town does receive 5% revenue for all the warranty products sold in that year. So, and that resulted in 2019 just over $1,000 and $1,037 in 2019, and in 2020 $1,248 in 2020 were the revenues that the town received. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Dowie.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you to administration for bringing this forward. I know this is, I'm actually very happy to see that there are successful claims that are being reported. This is really valuable information. I appreciate seeing that, and I hope that the company continues to provide that. I know I'm very much hesitant, however, with this particular issue. My perception of this program was to offer tools in the toolbox for residents to improve on their side and to allow for an I&I reduction on our side, mainly for the sewer connections. But what I've witnessed has been a very extensive marketing on the water side, and very minimal marketing on the sewer side. And so it seems to be an encouragement for people to buy coverage for things that they don't really need and are of less benefit to the municipality. So this is one where I certainly would encourage the furthering of the sewer coverage, because that is far more in accordance with the best municipal policy to get the I-9 out of our system, and that's the win-win. And certainly I think it's good to have the tool. However, this is what I'm concerned with in continuing that they will persist in marketing principally towards the water service side. So I'm hopeful that that could be communicated, or if you need a direction to go down that road, I'm happy to put that forward.
Yeah, I think, Mr. Barnick, I think you can explain why the water first and the sanitary second. And
Yes, through your worship, thank you, Councillor Dowie, for the question. So I think early on in 2019, and I think in early 2020, their main focus for the marketing campaign was on the water service. We have had a lot of recent discussions. I believe the last letter kind of focused more so on the water service as well as the sewer septic line. and kind of a third default would be the in-house plumbing. We have been working with them recently. We have seen a more up-to-date draft marketing campaign from them that is focused on water and sewer septic. And I believe as part of their program for the spring campaign, they are planning on sending a letter out shortly. I would suspect probably in the next 3 to 4 weeks, with the focus being water and sewer septic. And obviously, I think they're going to be tailoring some of those letters. So if residents have signed up for the water service line, they'll just be focusing on the septic and vice versa.
Yeah, and I need some clarity here. Not just septic system. This is the in-house the plumbing, including sanitary hookup to our system.
Correct. They refer to it as the sewer septic line, also referred to as the sanitary plumbing that goes into the house. Yep.
All right, Councilor Dowie, you said that any further questions or comments? I'll ask first, and then I'll go back to you, Councilor Dowie. Okay, Councilor Dowie, you prepared to move the report?
Yes, I will move the report.
Thank you, and support. Councilor Jobin. Any further questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. All right, thank you. Bylaws, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. This evening, we have bylaw 2021-29, which is a bylaw to levy the drainage assessments for the Dawson Drain as previously reported on this evening by the Director of Public Works. And we also have bylaw 2021-30. Again, this is the capital drain levying bylaw for the Lachance Drain as earlier reported on by the Director of Public Works. We're respectfully asking for first and second readings to each of these two bylaws, and if appropriate, third and final.
All right, 2 readings on the bylaws. Deputy Mayor Becchetti, Councilor Tonio. Any questions or comments on the 2 readings? We heard none. All in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Then third reading is it's proper. Third and final reading. Councilor Jobin, Councilor Houston. All in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Unfinished business. Okay. Any new business? Deputy Mayor Becchetti, Councilor Altenhoff.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a comment regarding the news we received today regarding the Tecumseh local. That was a digital video that we had in our community for the past year. We received notice that the Windsor, Essex, Tecumseh, and LaSalle local will cease operation as of today. And it reminds me of deja vu about a year ago where we were at council talking about the local weeklies that we would get through the Shoreline, the LaSalle Post that went out. And I recall we sent a letter of our disappointment in terms of the no notice given or just abruptly cutting off those weeklies. And so it was a little bit encouraging to say, okay, we're moving forward with social media, with digital print. And so we embraced the Tecumseh local. There were excellent articles written there by one article, Devin, I'll name him. And he did a superb job along with Matt Weingarten. And lo and behold, we're in the same boat again where they're getting rid of these. So I don't know if it has business driven in terms of advertisement and whatnot. But again, given notice to the community was huge a year ago, and I think it's still huge today. And I don't know if it's warranted just to send a letter of disappointment saying, you know what, these guys did a great job for our Windsor Essex region. And, you know, if there's an opportunity to return to maybe advocate that we have something so that those, I call them positive good news articles continues in our community, because it did take a hold of the community, and they were looking forward to that, and boom, today they were cut off. So just bring that up forward to council for consideration, if we can send something out to whoever the executive at Torstar is.
Yeah, I think another COVID casualty. Pretty hard, I get it. I mean, in terms of the advertising and how difficult it is. I mean, businesses are struggling right now just to keep themselves afloat. And I think that's difficult in itself. I mean, I'm surprised that they pushed it for a whole year. I think that's probably the big reason. I mean, just doesn't make business sense, right? If they don't get any support from advertisers, I think that's the killer. But I certainly, yeah, it is disappointing because I always look forward. I mean, I had the app and for LaSalle and then the Windsor one and Lakeshore and so forth. So it was good to keep, the small communities, fires burning, so to speak. But I can certainly write a letter and disappointing and so forth. And maybe if there's other opportunities down the road when the economy returns and so forth, that would be an interest of coming forward. I think I can take that, for information, Deputy Mayor, and just we'll pen a letter and then we'll get them to them. Any further new business? Councillor Outenhoff.
Thank you, Worship. And through you, a few items, I think 3 of them, if I can recall them all. First off, just I guess perhaps more words of acknowledgement and appreciation. I spoke with Mr. Anthony today. One of our residents communicated to me about the skate park and some information that's perhaps just needs to be revisited on our website, on the website referred to limits placed on Tecumseh skate park, excuse me. So Mr. Anthony said he's certainly going to get at that, and I think I really appreciate that, and I think the resident did as well. Second item was, unfortunately, I don't have too many particulars from it, but I did receive a bit of a frustrating phone call from one of our residents, again noting almost ridiculous or reckless driving on kind of the Tecumseh stretch between Lacoste and Manning. Unfortunately, I don't have the particulars on times and dates, but I've challenged or encouraged the resident certainly to try to keep a log and kind of report back to me. So that may be forthcoming, to the CAO, just to let you know. And thirdly, there was some correspondence that was sent out from our residents that neighbor kind of the region where Amy Croft is seeing a lot of construction, and some of the use of equipment unfortunately left on somewhat overnight. And I appreciate the efforts by Mr. Bartnick, certainly reaching out to counterparts in Lakeshore. I know that in my communications, which included CCing to Councillor Jobin and Houston, I think they've been trying to assist with this, and acknowledgements I think are appreciated as well to them. I think that Lakeshore certainly is going to be trying to put in best efforts to make sure that machineries turn off. But please, I guess we certainly welcome the input from the residents, but even to acknowledge our counterparts in Lakeshore who've also expressed to me interest on trying to mitigate these problems. So I just raised that because I know a number of our residents did bring it up. I think, Mr. Mayor, you were CC'd on some of that correspondence as well. So acknowledgement, appreciation to everyone working to try to mitigate these issues. Thank you.
Okay, any further new business? Yes, Councillor Jobin.
Thank you, and through you. I received a couple of calls requesting oh shoot, another dog park. Maybe in the central location, West France area. I don't know what the appetite is of the municipality, but I have different feelings. I don't know if you can recall in the past about dog parks. It's mostly just my personal opinion because I can accommodate my pets. I don't want to burden other taxpayers on having to accommodate my pet's needs. But I feel like if there is an interest with council and if we have to put out a survey, I don't know what the steps would be, but I would like to see if we do commit to anything else, that there is a committee of residents. I hate seeing on social media the users of the dog parks berating each other on social media because they can't even be responsible of a gift that is theirs that not all taxpayers utilize. I can't stand that. So I feel like if we have them accountable and have their own committee, where they maybe even do their own little fundraising events to do so there's pride in it, and then they take initiative to maintain it, similar with their kids at the parks. They pay user fees. Anyways, I'm just in the beginning stages of this thought process, and I haven't talked to Mr. Anthony about it. I do know that a couple individuals reached out to him as well, but I just want you to know there is an interest out there, and with intensified, diverse housing and developments, people need somewhere to walk their pets. I understand the whole thing, but I also like to see accountability and people taking responsibility. And I hate the banter. I don't agree that I even have to supply them with doggy bags because they can't bring their own and pick up their own waste. But those are my personal interests or concerns. But if we are going to go forward on a professional basis, I really would like to see some type of user committee formed, so that, again, there's responsibility and accountability. Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Evans.
Sorry, if I could, through you to the counselor. I think step one, as you pointed out in your in relaying your concerns, is perhaps to sit down with Mr. Anthony as a first step to just kind of flesh this out a bit prior to perhaps making anything more formalized with council's support on the matter.
Okay, thank you. Any further new business? All right. I need a motion to confirm the proceedings of our meeting this evening. Councillor Toniol and Councillor Altenhoff. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Any notices of motion this evening? None. Our next meeting, members of council, will be Tuesday, May 11th, 5:45 special council meeting, Windsor Essex Economic Development Corporation, EE Mobility Strategy. And then we'll reconvene at 7 o'clock for a regular council meeting. All right, if there's no further business, then adjournment is in order. Move to adjourn. Councilor Houston, Deputy Mayor Becchetti. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. All right, members of council, thank you very much for your indulgence and participation in the meeting today, and so is administration. And for those who are streaming from the comfort of your home, thank you for weighing in. And until we meet again, please stay safe. If you have the opportunity to get vaccinated, do it. And don't wait for one or the other. They're all good. Get her done. And so that the sooner we do, the sooner we can get together again and with our families and our friends and so forth. So with that, I bid you good night until we meet again.